What is human work and what is computer work? My name is Daniel Lord Doyle. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mary Technology. We're a Sydney-based legal tech company.
So, what's the purpose of your business and your role within it?
Mary is solving fact chaos. So that might not mean a lot to, I think, most people, but we work with law firms and internal legal teams who are sort of the lawyers for their companies. And they have a similar experience every day. And that is a new matter or a new problem comes to them. But it doesn't come in like a single email or a proposal or anything like that. It comes in the form of tens of thousands of pages of unstructured, disorganized documents. So, I mean, can you imagine this? 2,000 pages in a single bundle, like old medical records or long, long chains of emails or reports, images, graphs, charts. And it's a human's job to actually go about understanding what's inside of those documents. And that might take, for a complex matter, it might take 20 to 50 hours, sometimes teams of people for weeks. And so it's a big, big bottleneck in the legal space, particularly in the litigation side of law. Give you some understanding about what litigation means. Anything to do with the future, or like, oh, hey, I want to set up a business, that's transactional law. Anything that where we're talking about the past, where I'm trying to determine liability or who's responsible over something, and therefore potentially like what happens because of that liability being determined, that's what's called litigation law. So every cool scene you've ever seen with somebody in a courtroom, that's litigation. But often most matters, about 97% of them or something, don't go to court. They're resolved before court. So we help litigation teams basically solve fact chaos so that they can begin doing real legal work far faster.
Wow, that sounds very
Well,
complex. How did
well,
you yeah, with that?
I suppose probably the one thing to add on to that is how do we do that? Maybe, which
Yeah.
is Mary takes these big bundles of documents and organizes them. So it might take that big bundle and it will split them into all of the actual documents that are inside that bundle. And then it will name them and it will categorize and classify them. It will summarize what that document's about. And once we've done that, we'll extract all of the facts from those documents, not just the relevant ones, every single fact. And then we give those two things, like this index of documents and this set of facts, to a lawyer who would have previously been receiving this big bundle. Instead, they've got all of these facts that are like really easily searched and indexed and like sorted and filtered. And so they can sort of view that matter in whatever way is most important to them. So because one of the things we do is create a summary of that matter and we try and work out what's important, but they can edit that. And so imagine you had this big bundle and you're a lawyer that's trying to help understand about, say, an injury or what happened in a relationship between an employer and an employee. You can tell Mary, hey, the thing I'm most interested in is this, this, and this. And then it will tell you, hey, here's the 100 facts that are most important from these 2,000 facts. And here are the 10 documents that contain all of the most important facts for you. And so rather than going through absolutely everything with like the keenest eye, they can scan all of the stuff that Mary helps sort of determine isn't important. And then they can spend a lot of time reviewing and verifying those facts that Mary has surfaced as very relevant.
Wow, that sounds like you've really changed a very complex issue into something that's very simple to now navigate. And what are some of the impacts that you're seeing from the work that you guys are doing at Mary? Because it sounds
Yeah.
super interesting.
One of the key pieces of data that's come out of that is that for every team that we work with, on average, we reduce the amount of time spent on document review, which is the label of that sort of portion of the work, by about 75 to 85%. And that's really significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's great for the law firm because a lot of the time they can't even charge for that work. Or when they do chat, when they are working on that, it's actually stopping them working on really important things like how do I actually win the matter, not just what's inside here. And so on the flip side of that, for a consumer, the hope is that it becomes much easier to obtain legal support because you don't have to pay now for 50 hours of somebody going through all of your documents. And in some cases, what we're actually seeing is that the firm is giving access to their clients to say, hey, here's all of the facts. Point out to us which one's the most important and where the stuff that you've said has happened is happening. And so you can actually sort of, in the long term, what we'd love to do, I suppose, is democratize law. Because here's another stat for you: only 20% of all actual legal matters that could exist ever become a real legal matter. So are represented by lawyers, because the other 80%, it's too tough, that it's too expensive for the person to actually pursue that thing that's happened to them. But I think there is a future where all potential legal matters are potentially worked on by a lawyer. Yeah. And so, mainly we reduce time, increase the number of matters that law firms can take on, and increase the speed with which they're able to do things that are administrative and clerical. But by no means are we like replacing lawyers. It's more about just augmenting them and removing the clerical administrative stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is the AI revolution, right? Like most companies that are doing great things are supporting the existing architecture and just helping to remove a layer of friction. That's what I find, in most instances. Canva is doing that brilliantly. They bring design to non-design folk. And so they're enabling people who would not normally have the opportunity to create design work, because it was mostly housed in Adobe, and now it's in a completely different source and world. And I think sounds like that's what Mary is doing as well. Slightly different, obviously, very different. But yeah, you're supporting a business or an industry and the businesses within it to streamline and do better as well, which is
it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah.
I think creativity is a difficult domain to wrap my head around. I'm not the most creative person, frankly. And in some part of my heart as well, I don't think creativity should be given to the realm of computers. There's something about creativity that is anchored in novelty and human experience. And that's the thing that makes something beautiful. And so I do find it compelling, that sort of comparison, because I would suggest we're doing the exact opposite really to what Canva's doing, in that we still want the most important things to be done by humans. We just want humans doing them more often. So like the idea of actually understanding a client, like for me, there's a view where actually AI makes law more humane. At the moment, lawyers are so busy working on documents and things, they can't explain to the clients enough. They can't spend more time with them. I wouldn't be surprised if the demographic of lawyers changes over time to be more empathetic people who are focused on, yes, winning business and winning clients, but also spending time with clients, particularly in the personal law space. Obviously, that changes as you start dealing with businesses, but it's still the same. It's a human business. But I think we're trying to actually at Mary determine what is human work and what is computer work. And we're just working on the computer stuff. We don't want to replace the designer in your in your model there. We'd still have a designer, in our case a lawyer, but we're just removing some of the more tricky stuff to do.
Yeah, but just building on your point there, though, that would be the same for us, because we do a lot of work that we shouldn't be doing. And the spectrum of creativity kind of does this, right? And down here is where Canva is supporting the world to do the most basic tasks, whereas we want to be focusing on adding value and bringing knowledge and skill set to the clients and to the work that we produce. So I guess
that's a better example, and that's probably closer to my viewpoint as well. I just think creativity is one of those ones where it's a bit like I've got a friend who's he's an aspiring film director, and if you go out on an evening with him and ask him about his views on AI plus creativity, you'd have a really good chat. I mean, maybe there's domains we should protect.
Oh, mate, 100%. There are some things that are happening within the space for us, particularly where it's helping us to do work quicker, and for that, it's incredible. I think when people start talking about replacing humans, that's when we get into dangerous territory.
Yeah.
Not our industry, but worldwide. To
There's a
some
lot
degree.
of people doing that though, Wayne.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
loads of people. And particularly in my space, the like legal tech space. There's lots of companies coming out now who are suggesting, replace your paralegal, replace your legal assistant. And I suppose philosophically, that's not the view that we hold.
yeah. And good. I hope it continues that way.
I don't think it's possible, frankly, in law. It might be in other domains, potentially. I don't know enough about it. But for example, when you think about like coding,
Mhm.
coding might be a good arena where that could potentially happen on some wholesale level. But within law, it's really difficult to do that and maybe never possible. And I certainly don't think it's possible.
So, if you was talking to your 10-year-old self, this podcast is aimed at helping the younger generation get into work. What would you be advising younger members who are coming out of uni, say, to get into the workforce today? What would be some of your advice as CEO of Mary Technology?
That's a tough question, I think, because okay, maybe one is like not work based and the other one is, but like my dad's favorite poem was A Shropshire Lad, and there's a verse in it where it's into my heart an air that kills from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What farms, what spires are those? That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain, those happy highways where I went and cannot come again. And what does that mean? Well, to me, and I think to my dad, it sort of meant, oh, you can't get those days back. And
Yeah,
so you like look back on those days fondly. So if I were 10-year-old self, I'd say enjoy yourself as much as humanly possible and experience the world and, consume as much as you can of like things that you enjoy and things that you're passionate about.
yeah,
And don't worry too much about AI and all of that business. Because look, a lot of these people are growing up in a world that's very different than the one we grew up in, right? They're going to be. I was in Chicken Chow Girl Charlie's.
Oh,
Big up for the restaurant. And I heard two kids next to me. Like, they were like 14, 15, and they were talking about how they were using ChatGPT for homework. And I was just listening. And they said, oh, God, yeah. I mean, it can do up to year 10, but it can't do up to year 11. And I found that quite compelling as an AI engineer, because that's my background, I suppose, is that I'm a software and AI engineer. And I actually asked them, like, what do you mean when you say that? Which is weird because I'm there talking to these kids. But they were like, oh yeah, well, what you find is it can sort of think appropriately and deliver work up to a certain level. So these kids and these are the people that maybe you're targeted this towards, they're already probably far more than we are understanding the boundaries of where AI can exist and work. If I were to, and so you can't stop them, they're going to do it anyway. They're probably more native with it than even we are. And so I would suggest professionally use the tools that are available to you, push them and to do things that you're really interested in. Don't make it boring and do courses and things. Learn yourself. Like there's so many tools and capabilities now that even make non-engineers capable of doing things that engineers can do. So I would point them towards tools like Lovable, which we've spoken about before, Bolt, things like that. And I would suggest that they just play around with it and build things that they think are interesting and really learn what AI is and what it isn't for now.
My stance is often pull yourself away from the technology and just do things like playing in a playground and be human as much as you can, because I think we spend so much of our time in front of a computer and in front of technology that my concern is that we're losing that aspect of life. We're quite lucky in a sense that we're 80s, 90s. I'm assuming.
Yeah, we remember that.
I'm assuming you're 80s,
80s.
80s. Yeah, 87 myself, and just that romantic idea of being out and about with your mates, and you tell your parents I'll be home at 7:30, and you get home at 8, and you go, oh sorry, I lost the track of time. They couldn't call you because they didn't know where you were, and there was no phone, and
That's
Um,
it. Knock on your mate's door. Mate, but the challenge is that how does that help somebody determine in such like a crazy world, like how to think, or is there a mental model for these AI things? I think if I were to convert what you're talking about there, what will always be valuable in business is that somebody is a human
mm,
with deep and wide experiences and is good with other people and can communicate storytelling, and those things are really powerful. And the other thing to think is that a lot of these AI models are moving towards being able to accept instructions in natural language.
mm,
And so maybe if you are thinking, even at that most basic level, read a lot, learn how to tell stories, learn
mm.
how to define requirements, learn how to write out how you're thinking and feeling and what you need very clearly. That might be a set of advice that works both from a humane perspective as well as something that might benefit them massively as we move towards a set of tools that can understand natural language very well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That storytelling aspect is very important to be able to sell your ideas into peers and clients and so on and so forth. What's coming up next for Mary Technology?
We launched 2 years ago. Well, we started the company 2 years ago and we launched our product a year ago. And since then, we've grown on average about 95% month on month in terms of usage. And we now work with many of the largest litigation firms and in house legal teams in Australia. And we've still got very much an Australian focus. We do want to keep growing here and learning more about the challenges that we're trying to solve in this fact chaos space. But the dream for us and the vision is that we want to be the first and leading fact management system that we think all law firms will have. And that is something that from the very beginning of when a client is interested in a legal matter or pursuing one, they can start engaging with Mary for that firm. And we can start doing all of that work that typically is done in a very heavily administrative way. And we can start automating and gamifying that right through to the process that really means that lawyers have a joyful time in understanding a matter. And that when somebody leaves a firm, the facts and where they are in that matter doesn't change. And somebody can just come straight into it and understand exactly where it is. And we're on our way to achieving that vision. Of course, Australia is very important to us, and it's where our home is. And but the aim is global. We certainly want to help law firms and people that want to obtain law all over the world. And so our aim now is to start moving into the UK and the US and European markets. And in fact, we've just started working with one of the largest firms in the world, A&O Sherman, over in the UK, in London and San Francisco. So we've started that journey. And if anybody is listening and is either a law student that has an interest in AI or an AI engineer that loves the idea of being able to solve fact chaos, then please do get in touch with us. marytechnology.com. You can find us there, and you can just chat to us there. But yeah, that's probably what we need the most, is just really intelligent people who can help us grow that vision.
Love that. And I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but I just wanted to touch on how it all started, because I remember I met you when you was building Mary. Is that right? In your bedroom?
Yeah, well, we certainly have all been in our bedrooms at one point, but actually, the entire team of Mary is a six-person team, founding team. Yeah, so, and it all started really when my colleague Rowan, who's actually, it's his auntie that's called Mary. That's how it's called. The firm is called Mary because she's a family law barrister down in Victoria, and she's ruthlessly efficient. So we say every firm deserves a Mary. But there's six of us, and it really covers all bases. So we've got myself, Rowan, who had a legal background. I'm sort of an AI and software engineer. Harry, who's our commercial side, and then Luke, who's sort of on the product side. And then underneath that, we've got two of the best engineers in Australia, Lawrence and Jesus, and they're also founding engineers. So as a six, we started working together almost immediately, and from there we've gone through ups and downs. We've lost big deals, I suppose, that we thought we hoped we'd get, and then we've come back from that, and we sort of say that we're like cockroaches. And we're certain we'll survive just because we've got that core group of people that is just so passionate. And now we've been joined by so many incredible people. Big shout out to everybody on the team. So like Ahmed's been one of our first engineering hires that we found. We've got people like Angela, who's just a student but is so wonderful on the cybersecurity side. And so there's such a great team that we've brought in.
Yeah.
But I remember we were celebrating a very big ARR, which is annualized revenue, big celebration about 3 months ago. And Rowan was giving this speech where he was saying, the reason I know we'll succeed is because we're cockroaches. And then at that exact moment, a cockroach flies into the middle of all of us who are sort of standing in a circle. And he picks up this, because he's Aussie, hey, so he picks up this cockroach and he's sort of holding the cockroach to everyone. And it was just such a wonderful moment for me where it's like, wow, it's sort of fate.
Yeah.
We've had so many little moments like that sort of tell you in some way the universe is sort of saying, hey, you're on the right track here. Oh. And so, yeah, that would probably be my biggest guidance for anybody. Is like, if you are trying to do something, you're going to need to be a bit of a cockroach.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be resilient and never give up. Always, even when you're up against it, you need to push on through, and the results will come eventually. And I think it's been great to see your journey personally, because I know what you've been through, and witnessing the journey has been beautiful for me personally.
Thanks. I mean, that's not what they tell you when you're starting a startup. It's funny because somebody said something to me once where it was, if you're trying to do something really difficult, especially in a startup type mentality thing, the people who will tell you that to stop are actually the people who love you the most. Because they can see like what it takes out of you, and they're not trying to tell you they don't believe in you. They're not trying to tell you that you can't do it. What they are saying though is that I love you and I just want you to get a normal job with a good salary because you can. Whereas, with Mary, all of us in that original team went through periods of 6 to 8 months without salaries. All of us who've got responsibilities as well, and so to have to go through that sort of phase in building a company can be a real challenge. So it's good to have good people around you for sure.
Oh mate, yeah, especially if you've got a team of 6 as well, you can all build each other up along the way. And I can certainly empathize with what you guys have been through, because I went through exactly the same thing. Started it in my bedroom, came to Australia with just a backpack and a broken laptop, and managed to turn it around into what is now a team across the world. So
brilliant.
But it takes resilience and persistence. I'll just ask you some quick fire questions. How do you escape from work?
Oh, it's a tough one because I really don't. So at least for now, I don't.
Yeah,
it's probably the right answer there. I mean, I'll give you an example for today. I woke up, came straight to a breakfast meeting with a client. I have fit this in for a little bit of the day, but other than that, it's just trainings, demos, proposals. And then my final thing is at 10 p.m. tonight, which is a pitch in the UK. And so, that's a long day. And so do I escape from work? I try to.